Hello, welcome to another episode of Off Script. Today we are going to be running down the shows of 2020 that I want to talk about, but I'm not gonna make another video on them. I'm gonna pick a bunch of shows that I saw this year, a bunch of things I want to talk about. We're gonna smush them into this video, and we're gonna have a discussion of love and not love. Just a general bunch of shows that I want to talk about. So we're just going to make this quick. We're going to go through each one. I'm going to give a little rundowns about what I thought. And I'm going to give a recommendation, whether I say it's good, whether I say it's bad. I don't give scores. This is basically all you're going to get. So deal with that. So to get this started, let's start with ReZero Season 2. Now, ReZero is a series that I've already talked about in a Blank You Should Watch video. You know, that should be right about. Should be an eye for it up here. Go watch that if you want to see more about what this show is, because you probably should know that. But I did want to give like a brief little touch on ReZero Season 2, because it was really good. If you don't know, ReZero is about a man who has gone from modern day Japan to a mystical fantasy setting. It's an isekai anime, but also, it's Groundhog's Day. So the main character will get stabbed or killed or have some sort of horrible, gruesome death, and then will come back to life and have to go through certain missions until he's able to get through it without dying. Season 2, I think, really builds on this concept, really gets into these characters a lot more, and has a little more interesting plot than what I got out of Season 1. Season 1 at times felt like it didn't really have an overarching plot that was compelling, but Season 2 I think gave some more weight to that and really played with the actual core concept of the show, this coming back to life mechanic. There's a lot of good payoff that comes in here, a lot of good setup for stuff in the future. Really excited about it. If you have Crunchyroll, or I believe it might be on Funimation, I'm sure it's on Crunchyroll because that's where I saw it. Watch ReZero Season 2. Really good. I recommend it. Moving on, I also saw the show Blood of Zeus. Blood of Zeus is if you've seen the Castlevania anime series on Netflix, it's a lot like that, right? It is very much cut from the same cloth, especially in terms of animation, right? It is a highly bloody, highly action-filled, gruesome anime. It's all Western, but you know, it's anime. It is an adult cartoon show. I don't know why they call it anime, but that's what they want to do. That's cool, fine. This show, as you could probably tell from the title, Blood of Zeus, is about the Greek gods. Mainly it focuses on a demigod who is the son of Zeus, the blood of Zeus. And it focuses on this demigod's story and life as any kind of typical Greek tragedy would. His life is not great. He is the son of Zeus, so of course Zeus's wife, Hera, is not happy about it, as she typically isn't. So a lot of the show's conflict comes from that. This whole plot against Zeus for being selfish, for, you know, doing all these things to help out humans, and this kind of divide that comes between him and some of the other gods, and other plot machinations I'm not really going to get into a whole lot of detail on. It is, I'm going to say uneven. I feel like the pacing of this show is weak. I think it's fairly weak. I think the writing of this show has its moments where it's pretty fun, but other times feels like it really drags on. There's sometimes where you watch a show, right? And characters, you can like predict what they're gonna say in every scene. And this is kind of one of those, right? Where you just kind of know what's gonna happen, the beat of each time, and like you're just kind of watching for the interesting animation in the story and seeing, you know, myth and legends going on. Now, if you've paid attention to this channel or know anything about me, you'll know that I play a lot of Smite, Battleground of the Gods. Play a lot of that because I love mythology. So I had to watch this show, and I'll say the one thing that I'm happy with is that the main villain is not Hades. I feel like anytime we see myth, they angle out Hades to be a bad guy, which I don't like, because if you actually pay attention to Greek myth, he's one of the better gods, you know? They're all kind of shitty, but like Hades himself is like, he just lives in the underground, you know? He's the god of the underworld. He rules over everybody. He's not hurting anybody. He doesn't go around turning into golden showers, fucking if anyone's the villain, it's Zeus, right? If you look at Greek mythology, if there's any god that's a villain, it's Zeus. But this is another show that's filled with Zeus propaganda, so of course Zeus is a nice, caring father figure. I don't know, this show just, it didn't captivate me, right? So I'm not recommending Blood of Zeus. If you like bloody animation, if you need something that like feels like Castlevania, but isn't, then maybe this is for you. You know, if you're really hankering for some mythology, then yeah, hey, you know, it's something, you know, scratch a little itch you might have for you. Get some Greek mythology in there for you. But for someone who loves Greek mythology, I also felt like it kind of was lacking in a lot of areas there as well. A lot of the characterization of the gods feels fairly accurate, but there just wasn't a whole lot of that, you know, which is fine. It wasn't really what the show was going for. It kind of just feels like an amalgamation of stories you already know. So if you're into Greek myth, give it a shot. If you're not, pass. There's other shows you can watch. Moving on, though, we have another Netflix animated series, or this is actually a Netflix anime, Japan Sinks 2020. So Japan Sinks 2020 is based off of a novel from the 70s called Japan Sinks. So this is a Japanese novel about a huge earthquake causing Japan to sink back into the water. The pacing on this show also felt off. Kind of an uneven show through and through. There are moments that feel really compelling, but it also feels in a way like misery porn, right? This is a story that really gets into the ugly sides of human nature in a lot of uncomfortable ways. It is a interesting anime. It is a compelling anime. The animation team behind it is unique with a different style. If you've seen Devilman Crybaby, similar people to that. So that's kind of the animation style you should expect. And the same kind of, I would say, gruesomeness at times from Devilman Crybaby. It has a little bit of that edge. It's like, you know, there's not supernatural monsters or anything coming around, but it does have a little bit of that somberness, that kind of sadness that comes in with that. I think it has a really negative perspective of humanity, which is understandable. I'm not saying that that's wrong, but you know, that's something you should be prepared for. What the show is aiming for. It is not a uplifting or happy show. It is very much at times misery porn, as you would expect from a country sinking into the ocean. It is an interesting show, I'll say that. It's a show where you can watch it and you'll be entertained, I feel. Like, if you watch it here, you will find something that entertains you in some way. Whether or not that's in the way that the show intended, I'm not sure if you're gonna get that. It's interesting. I'm not personally gonna recommend it, honestly. You can definitely watch it, you know, if you're up for it. You know, if that's something that you want, if you want to see something miserable in this miserable year, then go for it. You know, it's there. But for most of you, I'm gonna say you can pass on it, especially if you're not into disaster movies. Pass. Moving on to Brand New Animal. Brand New Animal might be my favorite anime from Studio Trigger, which I don't think is a really high bar to clear. They've done other anime like Kill la Kill, which are anime that I enjoy, but I don't know if any of them have a lasting effect on me as much as I would hope for them to. Brand New Animal is a incredibly well animated, beautifully colored, super well done. It's Studio Trigger, so they're gonna knock it out of the park in design and animation. It's about a human girl who lives in a world of animal-human hybrids, people who can pass as humans, but in their actual soul, they are animals. So there's like people who are wolves, people who are dogs, people who are bald cats, and then the main character who is a tanuki. Well, she again was a human, but through a certain set of circumstances, she is a tanuki in this. So it is her adventure in this world of animals that is segregated from the rest of society because they are looked down upon by the normal people, which I guess that tracks. Brand New Animal, I feel like, has a really good foundation, some really fun characters, some good writing. It's really upbeat at times. It isn't the most memorable anime, I'll say, but if you're looking for a fun, furry anime, you know, with some serious plot to it, some good action, well-animated action, then Brand New Animal, hit it up. It's gonna be a fun time. Yeah, I say recommend on that. Go watch it. Beastars. Now, Beastars is another example of Netflix just descending full in on the furry anime, which, I mean, it's a choice. They made a choice, and I'm fine with it. It's another Netflix animated series about a high school, really an entire world, inhabited by anthropomorphic animals. Our main character, Lugosi, is a wolf who is a carnivore in this world where everyone tries to be herbivores, or at least predators, or carnivore creatures try to retain their urges to hunt and feed. It's got a lot of Zootopia in there. If you've seen Zootopia, there's a lot of that in there. Especially a lot of the messages Zootopia had about prejudice that would come up between herbivores and carnivores and that kind of working together. It is a very interesting show. It is part high school drama, part furry anime, part Zootopia, but it gets into more of the darker sides of that, and it's definitely a mature anime with some janky animation. I'm gonna be honest. I don't really know how people have really come down on this anime for its animation, but it uses basically mostly 3D animation, and I don't personally feel like it works a lot of the time. It's okay, it's just fine. It's serviceable. I still really enjoyed the show, but I don't personally like the animation. There are scenes that I think definitely do work, but overall, it's a hindrance. It's my biggest detraction from this show. Again, overall, I really liked it. If you want mature Zootopia, but also a high school drama, then definitely check it out. There is some really great plots in there. Really interesting topics that you don't really see a lot in anime. Like, just outside of the whole furry thing, you just don't see a lot of things like sex and stuff that's brought up in this show, really brought up in anime that much, which is interesting. And I think it's definitely something to check out. The Haunting of Bly Manor. It's technically a second season of The Haunting of Hill House, which I've also done a video on. Link up here. There we go. Now, The Haunting of Bly Manor it features a lot of the same cast as Hill House. It features the same creative team behind it. But it is a very, very different show. Bly Manor is a gothic horror, I think, in the more classical sense, right? In like a true gothic horror, where a lot of it focuses more on our characters. There's a lot of really good characters, a lot of really good actors and actresses, a lot of great performances that come in this show. Deals with a lot of heavy topics like homosexuality, alcoholism, abusive relationships, and I think it captures a lot of really interesting topics, all within one nice little horror show. It's a lot more about atmosphere this time than with Hill House. Hill House had a lot more scares, right, where they would just come at you. And Bly Manor is a lot slower. And it never hits that fever pitch that I feel like Hill House would get to, which is totally fine. It's a choice, and I think it works really well. As opposed to Hill House, which takes place in America, Bly Manor is in England. The Haunting of Bly Manor is based off of the novella Turn of the Screw, which is about a governess taking care of two children in the English countryside, two orphan children who are very wealthy, and then there are hauntings and things going on. It's very loosely based off of that from what I understand, but it is a very interesting show. Again, as I mentioned, has a lot of very mature topics it gets into, and it really gets into them. Like, it's not surface level things, and the performances and the emotion rooted in that really comes through. I recommend this show, especially, we're past October here, but if you're looking for something a little spooky, something to spice up the time, then, but you don't want something to like startle you, to like come at you, then Bly Manor is great. It is a very, I guess I would say it's a chill horror show, which I guess is, I don't know if I've ever seen another chill horror show, but I appreciate this actually. Yeah, good time. Highly recommend. Haunting of Bly Manor. Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 7. Star Wars Season 7 is a Disney Plus exclusive, and it comes to the show years after, it had last been airing. This is not a show I think a lot of people saw coming, but it really steps up the game of Star Wars The Clone Wars. I had not had a whole lot of experience with this show before this season. When it came out originally, I was just I watched a couple episodes here or there, but I was in high school, going to college. It wasn't really my focus, it just kind of escaped me. I didn't really have a whole lot of feeling for it. But coming back to it at the beginning of this year, I watched through all 6 seasons that had originally come out, and then I watched through season 7 as it aired, and it was great. There's 3 main arcs to this season. There is the Bad Batch arc, which is an arc of clone troopers called the Bad Batch, a bunch of abnormal kind of clone troopers in Star Wars. They are soldiers who are a bit off from the rest of this army of clones, and their interactions with some mainstay characters are really fun. It's a kind of a more of an action romp kind of arc where they go on an adventure to rescue somebody. It feels like it got pulled right from any kind of season of the show. It fits right in and gets you right back into what this show does, and exploring Star Wars stories that occurs in this stretch of time between Star Wars Attack of the Clones and Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. So overall, I was pretty happy with the first arc. There's another arc that it drags a lot. I'm not going to get into it that much, because I don't want to explain too much of the story, but it drags a good amount, and it doesn't feel really well earned, and really you're just kind of sitting through because you know what's coming at the end. And the end of this season has the third arc, which is the longest arc, which is the best arc, which is the Siege of Mandalore and Order 66. Now, if you're not a Star Wars nerd and don't know what any of that means, it basically is the big oh damn of the Star Wars universe. It's these moments that are these events that occur in the universe that are incredibly compelling and deal with a lot of characters and moments that have been built up to over all 7 seasons of the Clone Wars. It pays off those moments really, really well, and it is a satisfying conclusion to a really remarkable show. And in the end, I cannot strongly suggest enough, I am very much for Dave Filoni for the position of George Lucas. He just should take over Star Wars. It's pretty evident he's the guy for that. He understands it the most, I think, out of anybody. So Star Wars Clone Wars Season 7. Good. Now we're going to go on to some more Star Wars stuff. Star Wars The Mandalorian Season 2. It's also really fucking good. These 2 shows are some of the best Star Wars content, I think. I mean, it's definitely some of the best Star Wars content we've had in years. Maybe since I've been alive. Mandalorian Season 2 picks up where the Mandalorian Season 1 left off, which is Mando. He has an actual name. We're just going to call him Mando. He is this Mandalorian, which is a heavily armored mercenary, basically, on a mission to save this Baby Yoda. We're going to call him Baby Yoda because that's what he is. He's a little green baby who has a whole bunch of magical powers, and he has to take the magical baby and find where he belongs. And there's a story of him finding his home so he can, give baby Yoda a good life, and Mando shooting a bunch of people because that's what he does. This show really brought a lot of the Star Wars expanded universe, especially stuff from Star Wars: The Clone Wars, into, I believe, popular mythos for people. Because a lot more people watch The Mandalorian than I think anyone watches Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Because people like me watch Clone Wars because I'm a nerd, but normal people watch The Mandalorian. And that's the first time where they get to see characters like Ahsoka Tano or Bo-Katan. But this is a show that really has built up Star Wars lore. It's the best exploration of Star Wars lore, especially in a live action sense, I think we've ever had. It is a compelling show that has action. I think it has the best action I've seen out of a TV series. I mean, the effects are one thing. The effects teams are so good. The special effects team, like practical and digital, they knock it out of the park in this. I don't think any show has been able to reach this kind of capability. Like Game of Thrones, I think, for all of its great sequences, would still have times you can tell, oh, that's CG. There's like those breaking moments where you have like a little like, oh, hey, that's CG, that's that. You can see the You can see the edges, right? You can't see that in The Mandalorian. It's one of a kind. You know, it's really a... I'm not sure if it's just gonna be like this because it's Disney or what, but it feels like a step up from anything else, right? The budget's there, the animation team is there. It is a great show. And I highly recommend Mandalorian season 1 and 2. Really, the main thing that I can't really stop thinking about is how good the FX team is on this. It's really impressive. I don't expect to see this usage of TIE fighters and big battle scenes that you would get in Star Wars in this show. And they're on a smaller scale because it's not about an army, it's about one guy, but the animation still feels flawless. So, great show. I highly recommend it. Disney Plus subscription. It's been working out well for me. I've had some good shows to watch. And that completes my rundown of shows I want to talk about for 2020. Like this video if you like it. Leave a comment telling me about what shows you like that I went over, what shows you hate, your own thoughts. What are your top shows of 2020? Let me know. I'd love to hear it. If you have any suggestions, of course, I'd love to hear that as well. And of course, like, comment, and subscribe. Please subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out. Watch the videos, share the videos. That helps me out a whole bunch if you share these videos and it helps. It really does. And I feel good about it on the inside. But again, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it, and stay rad.